I'm excited to be able to welcome to the podcast Andrea Driessen. Andrea and I met a couple of weeks ago at IMEX, just very fortuitously that some other friends were gathering after one of the trade show day events, and we all gathered and we just happened to sit next to each other. And then we started talking. I was so impressed because when you go to large events, and there was 8,000 or 9,000 people, often you are doing all of the asking of others. Tell me, what are your event needs? Tell me, are you hiring speakers? Tell me. And finally, it was just a lovely, normal conversation in which Andrea wanted to say, tell me a little bit more about you. And that doesn't always happen. And that's why, not why, but when I found out more about Andrea, I was like, I need to have her on this show. My name is Bart Berkey. The podcast episode is called For All the Marbles, and it's sponsored in partnership with Marblism. The reason why I wanted to get Andrea on this version is because she is definitely an entrepreneur. She has done so many incredible things. I want to get to that. And the theme behind Marblism and For All the Marbles is this: dream big, start small, fight hard, lose some, but win more. Andrea, you are definitely winning just by your authenticity. Welcome to the podcast. So glad that you're chatting with us today.
I am thrilled.
That was a big introduction, and I want to hear from you. You have done some incredible things, and I want to read just a little bit about your background. So yes, a professional keynote speaker, TED and TEDx speaker, 2 million views in aggregate, and you have founded an organization that deals with, hold on, let me get the right name here. The organization is called Gracenotes, Messages of Mattering. Gracenotes, Messages of Mattering. You're also an author of a 3 times award-winning book. And I love this, Results Obsessed Message Strategist. There are so many things that you have done, but I would like to hear from you, and our listeners would like to hear from you. You have a degree in journalism and advertising. When did you know that you were an incredible speaker?
First of all, I want to honor how you did your homework. You got all the facts right. That's a nice job. To tell you the truth, one of my longest chapter of my career was running a speakers bureau. For 22 years, I worked behind the scenes, agenting speakers, helping them get the opportunity to speak to audiences aligned with their content. I loved that work. I loved the idea of connecting talent with opportunity. I was good at it. Then the pandemic happened. It was right before the pandemic that I gave a TEDx talk. And mind you, I never aspired to being on stage myself. I intimately knew what it would take, and it wasn't for me. But then my idea worth spreading in the parlance of TED, I would say found me. And I couldn't not get it out into the world. And so right before the pandemic, who knew, I gave my talk on Gracenotes, which I both define as a message of mattering, but I also define as a eulogy for the living. I say that in this context because we know then the pandemic happened just a few months later, and suddenly people all over the world got really intimately familiar with I'm a hospice volunteer, what we know and have known for a long time, that life can change and fade at any moment. And so the idea of a living eulogy became extremely relevant. And so the TEDx Seattle team asked me to deliver the talk again during the pandemic because it was so prescient. It was part of the zeitgeist. And I had published that talk, and that's when it blew up. And I've since devoted my almost every waking moment to helping people around the world to hear their eulogy before they're dead, because we shouldn't have to be dead to have our eulogy read.
I agree. I heard just recently, it was an actor or a comedian that wanted to, and I'm sure there's been skits like this on television, but wanted to have a ceremony, ceremony is probably not the right word, but wanted to have a funeral while he was still living so he could be there and he could hear the good things and he could see the people that were celebrating. It's not an uncommon theme, but you have certainly brought it to life, and no one else in the world is talking about it from the stages that you're talking about it from. So thank you for that, first of all.
You're welcome.
Yes. Running a speakers bureau, it was your company, correct? How did that business start? I know, looking back on your background, it's all about engagement and communication and messaging, which is super incredibly important. Do you remember when you said, I would like to start my own bureau and I would like to represent other people that are going to get on stage?
I do. I remember, I could almost trace it to the exact day. It was almost a flash of insight that I had. And I would tie it back as well to, it was about 1999. And I remember this was after a few years after I got out of college, but when I went to college, you mentioned I went to school for journalism. I had a concentration in advertising, but I knew I didn't want to be in a field that caused people to buy more stuff. I don't think we need more stuff. I think we need more meaning. And so I read that book, one of the first books on right livelihood, called What Color is Your Parachute? And I did the book. You steep yourself in this idea of getting clear on your values. And for me, those values were lifelong learning. So it was a natural progression to start a speakers bureau, which is all about helping people to learn the skills and insights they need to be more effective in the world. And candidly, I started with no clients. I understood the speaker side because of other work that I had done, but I had no corporate clients. It was utterly laughable that I tried to do this, but I was so driven to succeed that I ultimately worked with the Fortune 500 and trade associations, and I felt like I really made an impact. And now with Gracenotes, I feel that's almost a natural extension of that value of knowing, being values driven, but now making it about helping people get clear about other people's values and ways of being in the world so they can do more of those things. They can live into what I like to say, the legacy that others see possible in them.
Why do you think that matters to you, Andrea?
Because I've seen too many people die with their music inside them. That so often I see the light bulbs going off in people's minds when they have their goodness reflected back to them. We are so often blind to what our highest and best use of our skills are. We might have an inkling, but a well-written grace note helps us to bring more of our best selves, our greatest talents, unleash more of them in the world. And when more of us are on purpose that way, we are feeling a great deal of mean these days. We can transform that into meaning. We can be more aware of seeing one another for our best selves.
I want to dig just a little bit deeper. I noticed on your website you had referenced a madder and sadder world. Things are not easy, we know. And thank goodness there are people like you and hopefully like me that can share good ideas with people. And I know why I do it. We still really haven't gotten to the point of why do you do it? It's doing good. Were you brought up that way? Was there a situation that occurred that you're like, you know what, if we did this differently, we could change everything? Can you dig a little deeper and share if you're comfortable?
I can. I think it comes back to the way my dad was in the world. It's a two-parter, I think. First of all, both my parents, my mom and my dad, like many kids of our generation, were told we must write a thank you card after someone does something nice for us. So it was very much a discipline in our family, writing a thank you card upon the receipt of anything, pretty much. And so I had that muscle built, and all my siblings do. My dad was really hardwired for helping others, including us as a family, understand the impact we were making. And he was pretty demonstrative about expressing that, especially in his older years. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so I got more of that because he had more time. To give you just one example, and I'm looking at my office wall here and it's still there. In 1994, I left Minneapolis to move to Seattle. I had no friends, I had no job, I had no home to live in. My dad wrote me a note. I think it was 11 words. It said, "I'm in awe of my kid doing such a brave thing." I still have it on my wall. Do you think it inspires me to do more brave things?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
I hope that is a better answer to your question.
No, I'm understanding. I just like to get to the reason why people choose to do what they're doing. You took a big risk. You were driven. You found that this internal motivation was helping you to get there, to challenge yourself, to do new things. But then you also had the example set by your parents. You have a reference note to be able to look at from your father that you're probably viewing every single day. No, that is beginning to make sense. In today's world, when people aren't writing thank you notes, and I'll just share with you a couple of little quick examples because it certainly resonates with me, Andrea. When I was with Ritz Carlton, we would write something called first class cards.
Ooh.
Plain piece of paper, first class. That's all it said. They were treated like gold.
Mm.
You held on to them. You put them in binders. You put them on your wall. You put them on your corkboard. You held on to them. They weren't money, but they were valuable. If you happen to get one from Simon Cooper, the past president, or Irving Umler, the past president, you would value those probably even more because someone saw you, someone recognized you. This is what I speak on. That's why I think I liked you immediately because we both believe in the same things. It doesn't happen that often anymore in which people are doing thank you notes. It doesn't happen very often in which people are saying even thank you. I noticed just the other day, 2 days ago, I was driving to just a work office location. There were a group of younger kids that were crossing the street getting to the bus. They waved to say thank you. And then I proceeded to keep on driving. And as I got closer to my destination, it was a different time. It was time for the older kids, the middle school kids, to get picked up. And as they crossed the street, no one waved to say thank you. It was disappointing. It went away.
Yeah.
The avenue of gratitude, the aspect of gratitude, and just doing this to say thank you went away. I'm glad that you are bringing it back, obviously. Can you talk about how would you define grace notes?
I would love to do that. I just want to add a PS to my comment earlier. There's another key part of the story with my dad that is that helps connect some dots here. And people can watch my TED talk on TED.com and see the full story. But essentially, my dad was featured in a hometown newspaper story during his retirement. He was quite active in our community, and it explained the many ways he'd contributed to our town. And he wrote a note to us with a copy of the article saying, "It's better than having your eulogy read over your casket." And that really stuck with me. So I wrote to him a living eulogy. I didn't call it, I called it a tribute, because who wants to receive a eulogy when they're still living? And I just thought this was a normal thing people did. I thought it was common. And I quickly found out that it's not. And that's what led to it becoming an idea worth spreading in a TED talk. I define a grace note two ways. One, as a eulogy for the living. In particular, as we get older, we more identify with that angle, that definition. But for the workplace and for those of us who probably are further from dying on average, I call it a message of mattering. And the reason for that is, in the workplace, the data show that a third of people feel invisible at work, another third ignored, about half undervalued. These statistics are outrageous. And this is especially true for women. We feel particularly invisible. And so by giving someone a tangible note, you did a great job of explaining the value of that actual physical note. People don't throw those away. We can come back to it on those days where the caca's really hitting the fan and we're just feeling beaten up and wondering if all of our work is making a difference in the world. We can come back to that. We call it a first class note or a grace note that's probably on our desk because it's so valuable, to be reminded of the power of how we show up.
What a simple element that can be so extremely powerful. As you were sharing what your dad had written to you, it reminded me of something, and I do have it in our basement. It was a framed quote, and I can't remember who said it, but it was essentially a picture of a boat, and it said, "A ship in a harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are meant for." I don't know why. It was my mother that picked it out for me. She's 90 years old. when I see her in a few weeks, I will ask her why she got it for me. But I reference that so often as things aren't always easy. If you go out there, it's going to be rocky, it's going to be challenging, but that's where great sailors learn, right?
Yeah.
That's where great people live. It's not in the safety of something. Going back to grace notes, Andrea, the element of why do you think people don't do it as much as when you or I perhaps were growing up?
I've been studying this for years. That very question, why not? And I've talked to countless people, and I've identified four roadblocks. They're the most common reasons we come up with as procrastinating humans. The first two are related: lack of time. We know modern life is ridiculously busy, and
Mhm.
also a lack of what I call emotional bandwidth. That's the energy it takes for us to do something that comes more from here and
Yeah.
less from here. That takes a little more effort because we're looking beyond the surface to someone's true essence. The third roadblock, and it's actually the most common, is this fear of feeling awkward. This covers a range of feelings. So often it can come up because maybe we're thinking of writing a grace note to someone we can't get out of our mind. Maybe it's someone from high school or college, and we keep procrastinating. We think, oh, I'll do it next week, but then next week, and finally, at the most tragic level, we learn that the person has passed, and we sit with that regret for the rest of our lives. And fourth, it's this feeling unsure of what to write.
Mm.
So in my keynotes, I help people not only recognize the roadblocks, but give them really straightforward paths around them, because we overthink what to write and we
Mhm.
underestimate the impact that one simple note can have on someone to change their day, their career, and their entire life.
I have another story that will add to the fuel that we're discussing right now. My mother, 90 years old, lives by herself in Pittsburgh. She very sweet woman. I learned a lot about kindness through her. She's the type of person that will send you a birthday card, and if it doesn't say the right thing, she will scratch it off because she used to be an art teacher and put stickers over. So instead of happy birthday grandson and it's coming to me because she liked the card, she'll do everything to fade out the grand part so it's happy birthday son. She just is creative that way. A $2 bill with everything in stickers. Anyway, our father-in-law, Stephen, God rest his soul, passed away in August. And I don't know if Terry, my wife, had talked to you a little bit about that or not.
I
Did she
think
begin
so.
to a little bit? Okay.
Amazing story where he really got a eulogy around the bedside.
Yeah, yes. But what was unique with my mother in this situation, I was telling my mom, Stephen is not doing well. He's in the hospital. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. My mother, very empathetic. I'll send him a card. Mom, that would be great. Couple weeks progress, he's back home, but then he's going back into the hospital. Mom, did you happen to send the card yet? No, I didn't. I don't have the right one picked out yet. And the story of this, the title of this story was the card that was never sent. My father-in-law died.
Yeah.
He passed away, and the card was never sent.
Yeah.
Not because she didn't want to, not because, maybe because she didn't know what to say, maybe because of those four things, Andrea, that you just had shared, but the card was never sent. And to me, that's sad. And it's also a reminder to
Yes.
don't wait. And you'll appreciate this too, Andrea. If I'm doing a keynote and I'm sharing a slide right now, I will bring up the blue screen of death when your computer crashes.
Yes.
And
We all.
I don't, right, and I don't tell anyone that's coming, but bam, blue screen of death.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
And the message is don't wait. Because you don't know when your computer's going to crash. You don't know when your relationship is going to change. And I'm going to do a little self indulged toast to myself. I'm going to hopefully not get too emotional. Yesterday was a 6-year anniversary of my heart attack, my heart incident,
Oh my God.
in which I almost did not make it, but I am here, which allows me even more to be able to share. Cheers, don't wait. Don't wait to send the note. Don't wait to say, I love you. Don't wait to write a grace note. All of these different things are reasons that should share with you the benefits of doing it. And that's what we also talk about with most people don't, but you do, right? Most people don't do things because they're vulnerable. Most people don't because they don't know what to write. Most people don't because they're emotionally drained. Guess what? If you do, there are great benefits. All you need to do is just one thing, just take one step further. So
Yes.
what are some of what advice, Andrea, do you then have if people are fearful that they don't know what to say, if
Sure.
they are emotionally drained? What advice could you give them for our listeners right now? And as I say that, I have 2 cards that my mother wrote for my son, sent to our address, which is fine. We'll see him tomorrow for his birthday. She
Oh,
wanted to make sure, I think this was a lesson that she learned, right?
yes.
She was being doubly unsure. Now her memory is not as great as it used to be, but she sent 2 cards to say happy birthday to my son because she doesn't want to wait anymore.
Right.
Sorry, Andrea, I'm doing way too much talking.
No, no, no. We generally, if we make that mistake of waiting too long, we don't make it again. So it's an important lesson. So if you haven't made the mistake yet, you heard it here, folks, first. So go ahead and do it today. But okay, so that was a two-parter. First of all, like how to make time when we're
Mm,
beyond busy. And I have 2 ideas. These are the most straightforward and sustainable ways that I know to carve out time when we don't seem to have the time. The first is what you could call a habit swap. We think of a habit we have. Could be Netflix, could be scrolling social media, it could be cooking a special meal a couple times a week. Whatever it is, it's fine. We all have habits. But one time with one habit, we instead swap it out and we write a grace note for ourselves or to
mhm,
someone we care about.
mm,
Second, we schedule a meeting with ourselves. We all have meetings on our calendar. I'm here today with you because you and I sent a meeting request to one another. I carved out the time. Why not, with all the online calendar tools we have, schedule a 20-minute meeting with yourself? Call it Grace Notes moment.
yeah.
Make it a recurring meeting. Super easy. And maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once a week. But no matter what, we're creating that consistent pattern. And then the second part of your question was what happens when you don't know what to write? And it was for that reason alone that I created a 12-page, it's not even pages like in a book, it's 12 slides. It's a writing primer. People can go to my website, grace-notes.org. We can put the link in the show notes to
Mhm.
download a simple writing primer that not only gives you a structure, a framework, a roadmap for what to say when you're not sure what to say, but it goes over things like what happens when you want to write a grace note to an aging relative and you're afraid, this is common, you're afraid that your living eulogy will be misinterpreted as a premature and unwelcomed actual eulogy. How do you get around that? I have a tool or a technique for that. Or what if you're estranged from someone? Things between you and somebody in the world are prickly, they're fraught, but you feel like you want to say something so that you don't wait too long before they're gone. I have some ways to work around that too. So, this idea of not being sure what to write, I've got your back. We don't have to overthink and then allow that overthinking to cause procrastination.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing those tools.
You're welcome.
Andrea, has someone written you a grace note that is extremely meaningful that you could share?
Oh, I'm grateful that I have many. There's one, I'm just going to go get it.
Yeah,
It's
please.
I keep it on my shelf in my office. It came this way. It came with a beautiful ribbon. My girlfriend Karen knows I love this color. I'm not
Uh-huh.
gonna read the whole thing, but geez, holy cats! I have when I have a bad day, I'll pull this thing out just to. Okay, I'll just pull a quote
Yes,
just.
please.
She says, "You chose to still spend time with your friends who have kids, even though they, the kids, not the friends, are pretty damn annoying a lot of the time. Thank you for accepting my whole life, not just the single part of my life." So I have no kids. So most of my closest friends do have kids. And she just goes on. And like I said, my dad's note, I'm in awe of my kid doing such a brave thing.
Oh, yes.
All of these notes. I also, and I encourage people to do this, we get all these beautiful notes from people and at work. I recommend, because we all suffer from a bit of imposter syndrome, even Beyonce and Tina Fey and have imposter syndrome. One way to get past that is to create what I call a kudos file. It can be a
Mhm.
physical paper file. It can be a folder in your email
Inbox. Yeah,
where you
yeah.
put those
Yeah, of
beautiful
course.
that
Yeah,
people send you.
I call it a brag box.
There you go. Whatever
Yeah,
you
and
want
if
to
I
call it.
but it's the element of, yeah, holding on to things that make you feel good. I talk a lot about kindness as well, and we know
Mm.
that when you do one act of kindness a day for 7 days in a row for someone else, it increases your personal happiness by 8%. Why not? Why not take pen to paper? Are there systems and tools that you use to make it easy for you? And hopefully, this is a very good softball question, easy for you to be able to send handwritten grace notes.
I do. So I, because of my work, I had my designer create some cards that I can write on. It's not even a folded card. It's just a little bigger than a postcard. And
Mhm.
I practice what I preach. I write a quick handwritten note. I don't overthink it. I put it through the snail mail. Sometimes people will stop making this step because they tell themselves the reason I can't do it is I don't have their mailing address. I have a way around that because I think having a physical card is best. But it's
Special.
as I like to say, it's not a zero sum game. You can send it to them. You can write. Here's how it could go. Just one scenario. To write
Hmm.
out the card on a postcard or some sort of a piece of paper. You take a photo of it and you send it to them in an email because you don't have their snail mail address and say,
Yes.
"I wrote this card
Yes.
for you. This
Yes.
grace note for you. If you'd like to have the physical copy, give me your mailing address." One is going to say no to
Yeah.
that.
No,
So
yeah, absolutely right. And in fact, as you keep on sharing ideas, I'm going to see if I have I do have one. The power, right, of the power of handwritten notes. I speak at a kindness conference, fortunate every year for the last 5 years or so. And they pass out these, not first class cards, but we're going to call them, it says, "You are a rock star." Can you see
nice.
it? You are a
Nice.
rock star. Shout out to ALG
And this is the
Vacation.
mark we leave in the world.
Yep. And then on the other side,
Oh,
it said, show someone, I can't read it upside down, share some words of kindness.
yeah.
And this, you can see it's rather beaten up and there are some coffee stains on it, but it is, I don't throw that away, right? I don't throw them away. Now, these are business cards mixed in, but I don't throw those things away. I use them as bookmarkers and I use them as reminders that, hey, you know what? Yeah, today wasn't a great day, but you know what? Miguel loved my energy and attitude and awareness, and he thanked me for what I gifted him today. Muchos
Oh,
gracias, Bart. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Miguel. That's what it's all about. I want to thank you so much for, again, for doing what you do and for sharing what you're sharing. I do want to get into just a couple of questions toward the end here, if you're still okay on time. You okay on time for another
you
5, 10?
you
Okay.
bet.
From the business perspective, you started a speakers bureau, you have written books, you've done
Three books.
TEDx,
One book.
one book 3 times awarded. Come on now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I need to get it because I think the concept is really cool.
I am working on a Grace notebook, by the way, but it's not
Okay.
available yet.
All right. That was going to be my next suggestion. Where do I find the Grace Notebook? The Has it been easy as an entrepreneur? Has it been easy, Andrea, being an entrepreneur, starting all of these things? Easy?
No, heck no. Are you kidding?
Oh, it's not. Is it worth it?
Yes.
Okay, we're done. Yes, great. Tell us more. Tell us more.
Oh,
What were some of the greatest challenges
oh,
in building all the things that you have built? And it's been, right, more than 10 years. We're going to say more than,
26,
well,
26 years.
I wasn't going to say that, but God bless you for
I
doing those.
started when I was 10, Bart.
Yes, good for you.
Yeah.
What has been the
With
greatest
lemonade.
challenge?
Yeah. Kidding.
Greatest challenge?
Keeping the faith. I'm not a religious person, but early in my entrepreneurial journey, someone
Hmm.
said the first sale is to yourself.
Mm,
I think that is foundational Because
Yeah.
if we don't believe in the value of what we do, there is no way we can communicate our value to someone else. And
Mhm.
so there's that. So believing that you have something of value, and if you don't believe in it, then go create something that you do believe in. I have indeed taken a few pivots here. I started it as a speakers bureau 22 years. The pandemic had other plans for me, so I moved into business copywriting, and that was exceptionally successful until AI had other plans for me. People are using AI instead of humans now to write their business copy. Okay, after a few months of utter frustration and yelling at the sun, I said, okay, I'm putting all my chips on this Gracenote side hustle. And now I feel as if the world is just meeting me here. We are so starved for feeling seen and heard, for
Mhm.
feeling that we're noticed in this world of endless distraction. And I've come to believe that the attention that we give one another is our greatest form of love.
Yeah, I love it. When I'm adding on to things, hopefully it's enriching the message that you just shared. I don't want anything to detract from you. I'm very sensitive today for some reason with you. I don't want to say anything that is just respectfully. I don't want to say anything that is detracting from what you're saying. Does that kind of make sense? Not
I don't know
really.
what you're about to say.
No.
You didn't
Um,
do that at all.
no, because I'm agreeing with what you are saying, and it's what I believe in so much. I'll share with you just a few stories for you and for our listeners. I don't look at my email the day before, the day that I'm going to present on stage. I do not look at my email in the morning. So let's say I'm presenting at 12 noon. I don't look at my email because
Hmm,
I want my full focus to be on the audience, and that's it.
that's really
Nothing
smart.
else matters. Sometimes I will go through the audience, even if it's a big crowd. I sometimes will step off stage and go through the audience and let people know that they are the most important thing to me right now. Nothing else matters.
Right.
There's a term that someone used to describe me, which I didn't realize I was doing. It said, Bart, you have the unique ability to erase you when you
Huh.
present.
Ooh, wow.
All I'm doing is just like you, paying attention to everyone else in the audience. Are they comfortable? Are they happy? Are they paying attention? Are they not? Do they need a story? Do they need an exercise? Do they need to, what do they need? What do they need?
Yes,
That can be exhausting, but boy, fulfilling more than
absolutely.
anything in
Yes.
the world, which then aligns to the second question. We know that it's not always been easy. What is the most fulfilling part of what you are doing now?
Seeing the light bulbs go off when people feel deeply seen, and seeing when I present to an audience, watching them start off distracted because they're humans in the current milieu of just utter
Mhm.
distraction, having
Yeah.
them start to feel centered as they hear the stories, as they engage in the content, as they engage with one another, and in a 45 to 60-minute time frame, have them go from not really totally grounded in there to being with me and with one another in at a level of focus that it goes beyond anything they started with, and
Mm.
the eyes are a little glassy, and they really start to see that they've really kinesthetically had the experience as a result of the arc of my program, to see
Mhm.
how it feels to be seen and valued, and to see how low the bar is, how easy it is, I should say, to write a message of mattering, that it's not rocket science. It doesn't have to take a long time. And they walk out with a roadmap for doing it and a reason why.
And feeling better. And when that happens, a friend of mine years ago said, whenever they started their business, they started it for three main reasons. And I'll share this with you. The first reason was they didn't want to work for anyone else. They were tired of working for someone else.
Sure.
Second one was they wanted to get more money than they ever could have imagined. And the third one is they wanted the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do. In the first reason, not working for someone else, what they found, that wasn't a good enough reason. And the second reason, trying to get more money, wasn't the right reason. And the third reason, even of having freedom and flexibility, wasn't really even a great reason. Now, down in their top 10 reasons, number 8 or 9 was to help people and to
Mhm,
serve people. And
mhm.
it's so commonly overused. But once they figured it out that they didn't need the money, that they didn't need the attention, that they didn't need the applause, all they needed was to be able to help somebody, that changed their business. And as you shared, Andrea, the universe met you where you needed to be, not
Yeah,
when you're, yes, successful as leading a speakers bureau, but then also successful during a really crappy time when COVID hit, in which
yeah.
you had to pivot, think differently. The universe met you and has embraced you and saying, here is someone that is trying to do good things for the right reasons. And it's so unique. It is so unique. I just learned this lesson the other day, too. Let me just share with you quickly. I was presenting in New England, and I share this component of it. It's an exercise, and I won't get into it totally now. I can certainly tell you offline. But essentially, the message is turn to the person next to you in a very authentic way, look them in the eye, and just say, "You're doing great." Just those words, "You're doing great." In fact, I shared that, and that's what this person wrote in the last line, "You're doing great." And so going through that, this audience was overwhelmingly engaged with doing that with each other. Sometimes the exercise lasts 15 seconds, but this kept on going on and on. And it was the first time in my professional career that I did not need to stand on stage to get the applause. So, what I did, it was my next to the last slide, look each other in the eye, just mean it, Andrea. Look them in the eye and say, "You're doing great. I'm proud of you. You're doing great." I left the stage. I left the stage. I didn't need, there was nothing else to say. There was nothing else they needed to hear. And that was just such a turning point just recently, a couple weeks ago,
Wow.
with my professional maturity. I
Huh.
didn't need to hear the applause.
Yeah.
Now, the organizer, the president and CEO of the organization asked me to come back on stage. They had a little gift, whatever. But otherwise, I was halfway down the hall, ready to talk to people in the hallway. What I sense from you, Andrea, is that you don't need it for the applause. And that's such a noble thing. You don't need it for 5,000 people in the audience. You could have 50 people in the audience and you're still going to give and care the same amount. And I think that's really special. Have you, this is, I want to recognize you because I don't see it everywhere. I
Mhm.
don't always get other speakers on because, oh, I don't want them to get leads that maybe I could get leads from that. But when I meet the right people, I do believe that there's abundance. And when I meet the right people that are nice people, I'm like, you know what? I got to share the world with Andrea Driessen. I just need people to know about her. Are you able to take that same, and I'm learning, are you able to take that same approach? I don't want this to turn negative in the last couple of moments, but are you able to identify authentic people rather quickly versus inauthentic people that are doing it for the money, for the stage, for the applause? And how does that affect how you look at the world? Such a strange question, but it's just me.
It's not strange. What was coming to mind as you were telling your story, and then as you developed it into a question, I'm going to go back to the TED world. I spent 8 years as a co-organizer with the TEDx Seattle team. And as a result of that, I played a number of roles. This was all volunteer work. One of those roles was being on the speaker curation team. And what I learned in that experience and in going to 4 or 5 global TED events is that in the ecosystem of TED, what they look for and what we looked for at TEDx Seattle was not the person whose motive to be on stage was to promote their business or to be in the spotlight, however that may sound, but your job, your role, your mission, if you choose to accept it as a TED speaker, is to give a gift to the audience. That is your job, is to give a gift. When I gave my first talk, I was in front of 3,000 people. I'd never done anything like that. And I said consciously to myself, if 5 people can hear my message and write a grace note, I will have succeeded. That's why I held up my hand with the number 5. That was my limited thinking. And now 2 million and counting have joined the Grace Notes movement. And I think because it's not about me. Take this idea and run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
Which
about
is
being a
and it's so special, Andrea, what you were doing. It's so incredibly special. You are bringing messages that matter to people while they're here, while they're alive, for people that don't feel like they are being seen. And we see it everywhere. We see it in kids, we see it in adults, we see it professionally and personally. They're not always being seen. You are providing a solution to be able to help that. And learning about your background, that you have put out to the universe, that you want to do good things to help people. The universe is meeting you. You are driven, you are flexible, and you are authentic. And let that be a little grace note to you. And
I
I
feel
will
it.
send you a copy of this and we'll send it out to the world. That is authentically your grace note. Being interested about other people and trying to help other people, as you said, expose their light or see their brightness. Thank you for doing all of that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bart. You are a bright light that's changing the conversation around how we all can be doing things the rest of us are not doing in order to make the world a better place. We can all die with all the marbles. There's
Ah,
plenty of marbles to go around.
yeah, well done. And Andrea, if people would like to reach out to you, I want to spell your last name first of all. Andrea, Andrea, Driessen,
Driessen.
Dri, Dressen, sorry, Driessen, founder of Grace Notes. And would you mind sharing the best? I have it here somewhere, but you might as well share with me the best web address for your website.
It's
Yeah.
it's grace-notes, notes.org. Grace-notes.org.
All right. And I love your website is really cool. Make mattering your magnet and foster a workplace and world with greater trust, productivity, and humanity. Less mean and more meaning. And somewhere you also had reference about less matter and sadder.
More mattering. I don't know about the sadder part, but yeah.
You know, I'm not using all the right words either. I'm not the journalist like you, but truly grateful that we have made our acquaintance. Thank you for being on the podcast for all the marbles, to share your drive, your entrepreneurial spirit, and your authenticity to help others.
Right back at you, Mark.
Thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate it.